Hey, I'm Nick Filardi. I co-host with Jason Thielbar on the world's second finest podcast. Every week we talk about 90s Bat books, but we also talk comics, movies, books, TV, both new and old, that we love. What you're about to listen to is an unedited version of that conversation. This is the To Read Pile. Jason.
Yo.
What are you reading?
I am reading. It came out a few years ago. I love this book. I'm going to reread it. I wanted to bring something to the To Read Pile. And it's 4 kids walk into a bank.
A classic, a modern classic.
Yeah.
What's the creative team on it?
I was just making sure that the creative team is art and design by Tyler Boss, flatting by Claire Dezutti. I hope I pronounced that right. Lettering by Thomas Maurer, wallpaper design by Courtney Menard, and writing by Matthew Rosenberg.
Who did the art? Is it all Matthew Rosenberg?
Oh no, art design was by Tyler Boss.
Oh, okay. They added art and design for him. Okay.
Yeah. It looks like there was a lot of shared, and really appreciated the credit for flatting. Because that's.
So, I'm of two minds about this. Do you want to talk about it just a little bit? I guess this might get cut for the actual pod, but
of the book itself,
of crediting flatters. So, I'm all for it. If you work on a book, I think you should get credit. However, I've seen books that credit flatters and then comic reviewers who don't understand the process of making comics, not really understanding what the fuck a flatter is, and thinking that like the comic they're looking at, like the flatter made choices for the art that's down there. And it's like, they didn't really, like, the colorist changed everything, so they start to be like, okay, comic reviewers I've seen credit the flatter with wild things, like just because they have no idea what the hell's going on in the pipeline. So on the one hand, I do think we should credit flatters, but on the other hand, I think that more comic reviewers should know what the fuck they're talking about.
Do you want to give a quick rundown, a quick encapsulation of what flatting
Sure. So
consists of?
A flatter basically preps a page for a colorist to go in there and do the kind of creative side of it. What a flatter will do, we just did a podcast and it had Batman and Superman in it. So say you got a page of Superman's fighting robots, Batman's fighting goons, and the flatter will go in and be like, okay, I'm going to make Superman's suit blue, his S red, his shield emblem green. Let's say they make it green, okay, instead of yellow. And then the colorist will go in and they'll do that for the whole page. It's just flat color, no shadows, no gradients, no nothing, just flat. And then the colorist will go in and be like, oh, well, this blue isn't exactly right, so I'm going to change it. And then I'm going to add a little mood lighting. So I'm going to change all of the colors with just a wash of orange or yellow or whatever. Or there's like a laser in the room, so everything's going to get washed with like another purple or something. And then they screwed up that green, so I'm going to shift it over to yellow. And then I'm going to start adding like shadows and everything. So by the time the colorist is done, the thing that you're looking at is the colorist. What the flatter did was enable the colorist to quickly go in there and make changes that they need to make in order to get to the page they want to make and do. The flatter is basically like, I'm going to do the grunt job of just separating all the planes and separating all the pieces, the skin tones from the body and everything. And then the colorist is going to go in there and do all the artistic stuff. Yeah. Does that make sense?
So the flatter will, if I'm doing flats, I'm going to generally, if I know, I'm going to generally try to keep things to what I think it'll be. Like if it's a scene with a bunch of trees, I'm going to be like, okay, brown, green, brown, green, brown, green, right?
Yeah, you don't even have to do that. Like I've gotten flats before with like where it was like three trees layered on top of each other, and then like the flatter gave me like purple, green, and red because they were just like it just needs to be separate. It doesn't even need to be accurate, you know?
So 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 what do you so how does the flatter then help you as a colorist if I'm just
Okay.
picking all wrong colors? I guess would be
So
my
so
concern.
how they help is so they think about it like this. To trace out the shape of the tree, right? Is probably like 25 to 40 clicks of the mouse. Or
Yep.
you put your tablet in your lap and you trace it out, and that takes time. When I go in and I'm like, okay, it's fall, so I'm going to make them all orange. I can take the wand tool and with one click, just click the tree. And then if I want to click the three trees, just three clicks. I've selected all the trees and I can just wash them with an orange and then like get them closer to what I want. So they've basically streamlined the process so that I can very quickly grab what I need to grab and change what I need to change before I start coloring, kind of thing.
Okay.
Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah. Because I think maybe some people, or at least like my thought sometimes about flatting would be like essentially like I'm just taking my me as the flatter, I'm taking just the simplest version of whatever color that and again, sometimes it could be like a guess because as you've explained to me before, just in our time, that like, oh yeah, I just if it's the wrong color, it's no big deal. I just change it. It's
Yeah, yeah.
so
And
okay.
plenty of times too, like comics and cartooning will have like, you know, the flatter will go in and be like, the artist might draw like a more nebulous space with like smoke or something, and then they'll be like, I don't know, building, smoke, whatever. Like, I'm just going to try to make my best guess, and then the colorist will be like, I appreciate your best guess. I'm just going to redo this. Like it's
Yeah.
the entire perspective from the flatter is not to create art, but to make the colorist's job quicker. And they try to enable that. Like that's the goal of a good flatted page.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot
Yeah.
more sense.
I
You know.
like smart selections over smart color choices. Like I'll I'll have like I appreciate both, obviously. Like I hire a flatter, Joel Bartlett. He does great work for me. That's why I keep hiring him. And I try to pay him a little over the regular rate because he just does really, really great work. Like sticks to some decent colors. If I tell him like, he stays pretty on model. As far as like what I mean by on model is like I'm working on a Star Trek book and he keeps all the uniforms the same color and that he pulls the color from the previous issue I did so that it's like stays pretty normal. But what that does is it enables me to just be like go in there and like wash it with colors, tweak it a little bit, get it to where I want before I start painting, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so he'll do that. He'll also separate the planes a little bit, foreground, middle ground, background, into like another separate layer for flats. That's kind of like above and beyond for flatter. But
Yeah.
yeah, but like again, the flatter's job is to save time for the colorist, to let them do what they need to do artistically. And Joel, by separating the planes, really helps out with that.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I'm of two minds about crediting flatters, because at the same time I'm like, yes, if you worked on the book, you should put your name on it, because like
Yeah.
really a comic is made by at the ceiling like six people. Put all their names on it. Who cares? You
Yeah.
know?
I think maybe they felt the need to give a credit to a flatter like on this book because like it's sort of like I've heard about people having the conversation before whether they credit someone for doing layouts or not because like layouts for an
Sure.
artist for like a comic book page could have been anywhere from like someone just setting up the panels and then just doing legit stick figures just to again maybe save the artist a bit of time so they don't have to think about the
Right.
breakdown of the action and the storytelling. And then sometimes there are people who are like, a regular artist on a book will do like fairly detailed layouts, but like the pencils are so loose that they know they can't call them finished pencils that someone can just ink over.
Yeah.
So someone does art over that doesn't quite look like their art because you know, but so like
Sure.
there's kind of different levels of like, well, where do I credit this person? And maybe it's a case of that just the work they did on the flats was just
Yeah.
like kind of maybe a bit more detailed than it typically is, you know, and
Maybe,
or
you know,
I'm not
I
sure.
don't really feel like like a flatted page is less about art and more about craft. It's either flatted or it's not. And
Yeah.
I also pay a flatting house to do flats. Their rate is a lot lower, but their flats are a lot worse. Like I have to spend
Mm.
a lot of time correcting the flats um, beyond color. Like even just like, oh, they just didn't put eyes on this character. I got to go in and fix that. You know, like stuff
Yeah.
like that. But like they're extremely cheap and they're extremely fast. So if the page rate's lower, I might use them because it's less of a hit on my paycheck. Like financially, it's less of a
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
But it's like, would I credit them with flats? I don't know because they're not good and like I fixed them. You know what I mean? Like before I even start coloring. So it's like, fuck, dude. This is the other conversation with flats. Is like nobody sees it but the colorist. So like when you
Yeah.
start to credit flats, it's like then it gets in the hands of comic reviewers and they're like, "Oh, this person did really good flats." And it's like you never fucking saw the flats, dude.
Yeah,
Like
you have no idea, like,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
whether someone did good flats or not because I fixed this in post,
Right,
and
exactly.
I'm
What you're
post.
reading is my work, not the flatters. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. I wish that if people were more knowledgeable about this industry. My problem is this: people are already fans in general are already not super knowledgeable about the industry, and like a lot of them could not name 10 colorists anyway. So to
Yeah.
like complicate that conversation further with like flatting and what flatting is and like why it exists and like why it should exist and why you should credit it, it's like you've already you've taken like the comic readership and you've already narrowed it into a sliver just by talking colors, and then you're narrowing it even further to just talk about flats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wish that everyone just knew the process inside and out like I do, especially if they're a comics reviewer. I would
Mm.
hope that you would care about the process and knowing it inside and out. But like, if you don't, you're just like, we credit flats and the reviewer just says whatever the fuck, basically.
Yeah, or maybe like, hey, anyone wanting to review like if you don't know a lot about colors and about the flatting process, like reach out. Like I'm sure any colorist
Yeah. Yeah.
will like
Happily engage.
happily explain to you, you know, what and why it
Yeah.
is,
I,
you know?
I, if any reviewer ever wants to reach out, has a question about colors, ever, I'm I'm like very easy to get in touch with over Twitter, Instagram, Discord, whatever. Like linktree.com/nickphil. I will help you out.
Yeah. Yeah. So
So tell me about four kids walk into a bank.
so four kids walk into a bank. I really don't want to give too much about it away because I love the story. It's a heist story about these four friends who are nerds. It opens with a few fantasy pages of
Yeah.
some characters that don't reappear in the book because they're playing D&D. You know,
Nice.
until I think a bottle of orange soda gets knocked over.
Yeah.
Um, the artwork is this beautiful it's this beautiful brushy style that I'm such a sucker for, you know, like
Sure.
I just love I love good God, good ink. There's something about good inking that just really hits me like
Sure.
right in the middle, right in the middle of the heart, you know. And it's just a really imaginative, well done story that gets really dark because like it involves kids, and so you think it's going to be this like, oh, these kids are gonna rob a bank and like what kind of hijinks? Oh no, there's real mortal danger in here.
Yeah.
But it's told supremely well. To me, it reads like a really good Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips
Ah,
story.
that's high
Um,
praise.
Yeah, it reads like that kind of crime story, but also has fun with with the fact that they're kids. Because I
Sure.
remember, and I'm gonna read it out so I make sure I remember every word. But there's, it's broken up into chapters. In the beginning of every chapter, there's a quote, and I
Hmm.
think that this is a quote from somewhere that they slightly changed for it to fit kids, but I love it. And this, when I first bought this book years ago, it's what made me fall in love with it immediately. Was chapter 2. You don't make up for your sins in school. You do it at the arcade. You do it at the candy store. The rest is bullshit, and you know it. I was like no
That's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, as I just remember, like I seriously remember sitting in the, and it wasn't even because I remember I wasn't even living in this apartment. It was my previous apartment when I bought this book, and like I just like sitting there, got my setup and reading my comic book, and as soon as I hit that chapter 2, like I already loved it from the beginning, but as soon as I hit that chapter 2, I'm like, I'm not getting up till I finish this because this is
Man,
fucking great.
I haven't read Four Kids Walk into a Bank. It's been recommended to me many
And
times. I know that it like
and look at
kind of
this.
helped. Yeah, yeah. The book is beautiful. I I know that it kind of launched Matthew Rosenberg's career, and I like him as a writer. Like I've read other stuff that he's done. It's always been on my pile. Maybe I should read it as well.
It is very yeah, it's just really it's really well done, and especially too in terms of crime stories. I can tell that uh, that Rosenberg has a very he has a nice knowledge of probably a lot of Ed Brubaker stories, probably some like a lot of great 70s crime
Yeah,
movies,
yeah.
like those kinds of things. Like I can just feel that energy. It's like, oh, he really understands that, like the thing that makes an Ed Brubaker story and Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips story really good is that Ed Brubaker as a writer uh, deeply cares about and even has backstories for himself for every character like that he has, because he wants
Yeah.
the motivation for all of them, and he understands that the even though it's a big plot that they're following because it's a crime story and you follow the crime, that it's the
Mhm.
characters that need to really be push things forward and like that really pull you in, and like that's the same thing for Four Kids Walk into a Bank. It's all I love all the characters, all of the tropes that they sort of represent, and it's just yeah, it's just really well done, and it has been one of my favorites for the past like 4 or 5 years, like since like I bought it. Like I kind of read it once a year, really at this point,
Nice.
So
Can't get a better recommendation than that.
yeah, hell yeah. So what are you reading? You reading Eight Kids Walk into a Bank? You trying to double up on this?
Jason, what am I reading? I received so much psychic damage from Zero Hour that I basically haven't read anything all week. But
Ooh,
I've
reading sabbatical.
I actually uh, got up this morning to read a little early to read the stuff that I needed to read for this fucking podcast because it was just like I read so many books for Zero Hour that I think I kind of like burned myself out a little bit.
Yeah, dude, I don't know how you're standing after that because I read like way under half of what you did, I think, and like yeah, I
Dude,
felt
just
like I was
even
on
just
drugs.
Armageddon 2001 was a solid like 200 pages. And that was like
Yeesh.
not even starting to read Zero Hour. But I did read a couple of weeks ago before I got into the Zero Hour trenches. Um, I read Batman Alien or Batman Aliens by Bernie Wrightson and Ron Mars.
That's
Um,
right.
Yeah, I didn't know this book existed. I
I
was
didn't either.
flipping through some old back issues at a shop and pulled out like a dollar bin Batman Aliens crossover, and I was like, "This is stupid." And then I saw Bernie Wrightson was on it, and I was like, "This is going in the pile." Like
Oh, well,
Bernie
yeah.
Wrightson, for anyone who doesn't know, big '70s horror guy. It doesn't the book doesn't rise to the level of like his like did you ever read his Frankenstein? I guess read. It's Frankenstein, it's the novel,
Yeah,
but it's
illustrated with
yeah, but
illustrations
he's
by
illustrated
yeah.
beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. If you ever want to see Bernie Wrightson flex, like that book is fucking gorgeous, Jason. Uh, but
I think
Bernie,
he's done some Swamp Thing too, right?
he's done some Swamp Thing. He's a big like 70s, 80s horror guy. He
Yeah.
did a lot of House of Mystery, House of Secrets, which
Yeah.
you know I love. You know it. I think he did the first appearance of Swamp Thing in House of Mystery. I think issue 94. I'm not sure. So obviously I was like, okay, he's going to be drawing. It's this Bernie Wrightson who does this like meticulous ink work drawing H.R. Giger inspired aliens. I'm in. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sold. You got me.
Yeah.
So I got the first issue. I read it. I tracked down the second issue. I read it. It's only 2 issues. It's a very quick read. It does, like I said, it doesn't rise to the level of like some of his previous work. You can tell at certain time, and he's older when this comes out. So I don't know if he's just like a little more rushed by like the DC Dark Horse machine that's like behind him.
Well, because I can't remember if he even, I don't even know. I can't remember if he got his start for EC or Creepy maybe in the 60s
Oh
before.
gosh, I can't
I don't
remember.
know. I think he might have done some of that stuff too before. So like, yeah, he might have been pretty, fairly old at this point. Cause I kind of,
Right.
I know that, right. I'm pretty sure Wrightson wasn't as old as Frank Frazetta, but I always kind of put them in the same
kind of camp. Yeah. He's definitely at least he's like part of that like Neil Adams generation of people kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that makes more. Yeah, because Frazetta was way earlier, even in comic books, and stuff.
At least that's my perception. Going off of gut instinct and zero facts. The way podcasting was intended.
Whatever. We love you, Bernie Wrightson.
Yes. So here's the thing. Like, Bernie Wrightson will knock your socks off. This book felt a little bit rushed. However, you can tell he's rushing in the places where it's like, oh, it's just talking heads, like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
When
I'm not going to spend 18
hours
on this.
Right. When it's like Batman fighting alien, fist fighting an alien, it's like, oh shit, dude. Like, yes. One of the alien opens his mouth and the little like throat mouth comes out, and Batman grabs it and punches it, and I'm like, yes, I'm in 100%. Let's go. They do a credits are on Mars as well. They open up the second issue with a retelling of Batman's origin. He's like having a nightmare, and it's like he's a child. It's the Wayne family into Crime Alley, and they hear a noise, and the Thomas Wayne turns around and he's got a face hugger on him. And it's like wrapped around his throat and on his face, and like he's like, Mom, and he looks and his mom goes down, and then a chest burst like happens with an alien. It's fucking rad, Jason.
That's amazing. That's
it's so good. It's such a great idea to like play with the mythos. Very fun.
And big ups to Ron Mars for like, because I'm sure Ron Mars was like, holy shit, like Bernie Wrightson's going to draw my script.
Right, dude. Yeah.
He's like, he was, I'm sure he was like, his mind was flooded with like, and I want him to draw this, and I want him to draw this.
Yeah. So there is another Batman Aliens. It's not drawn by Bernie Wrightson. I don't know who it's written by. But this one was very good. This was the one that came previous to that.
You have to see if they have it on the app.
It's not on any apps because it is a crossover issue. It's Dark Horse owned and
that's right,
DC owned, so you can't really find it anywhere. You got to get it in paper. Got to hit them shops, Jason.
I'm gonna dig through the bins. I haven't been in Sarge's in about little over a month, so I'm jonesing.
The whole thing is predicated on like Wayne Enterprises has a botanist in the Amazon somewhere, and that person has gone dark. So Batman kind of parachutes in to see what's going on. He bumps into immediately when he parachutes in, bumps into like a Black Ops team, and they are basically the fodder for the alien that is like gonna be murdered, because you can't murder Batman in the thing because Batman's kind of infallible,
Yeah, gotta have some red shirts in there, you
Right,
know.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they are the red shirts, and it the way it unfolds is really great. Yeah, I no complaints. Really loved it. Very fun book. Not
Yeah, I was gonna
necessarily
say.
something that you like have to read or whatever, but like if you catch it in like a dollar bin, pick it up.
Well, you made me think. I mean, I'm honest to God gonna go flipping through the bin soon, looking for that because like when you said the Batman grabs the second mouth and like punches it, like it just like it reminds me of like it's like that's a great signal of like yes they know this they know this is a pretty silly book and they're having fun with it. It's like they're still
Right.
serious about telling a serious ish
There's
story. It's like
there's a
that
couple of
scene.
moments where like the alien like they know the aliens are there. They've lost a couple of people in the group already, you know, and they're being
Yeah,
stalked basically. And they're
yeah.
like, "Hey Batman, here's a gun." And he's like, "No thanks." And I'm like, "No thanks. They're aliens."
Doesn't matter.
You're
Doesn't
going to punch
matter.
out an alien? I guess. Whatever. You're
Yeah,
Batman. You'll figure it out.
he's gonna send that alien to Arkham, man,
Yeah, right.
where
Exactly.
it can get reformed.
Xenomorph goes right to Arkham.
Yeah, yeah. This
Put him in the bat cuffs. Like
this
done.
this creature that, by all accounts, is supposed to be like a a psychosexual representation of fear. Is I'm just gonna punch it a bunch. It,
Just gonna punch it.
it's is that Batman's overall lesson? You afraid of something? Just punch it. Punch
Just
fear.
punch it. Yeah,
Punch
I
the
think.
concept of fear straight in the face.
So unfortunately, I haven't read more than that. I got a pile that I'm working on, but I also because this is always what happens when I get a little overworked with comics, I retreat into video games. I started playing Dragon Quest Treasures, which has been a nonstop delight, just a fun time to hang out with some anime pals.
I still got to play Dragon Quest. What was that when I first bought my Switch last summer? What was that Dragon Quest game you recommended to me?
11S.
11S. I'll have to try that. The only thing I know about Dragon Quest is that little blue guy. I know is
Yeah,
like really
the
popular. I
slime.
don't know. Yeah, the little like I just know like
So
plushies of it. Like people just like love the
okay,
design.
here's my quick pitch for Dragon Quest in general.
Yeah,
Akira
yeah.
Toriyama does all the art. He did Dragon Ball and stuff like that. So
Oh,
all the,
nice.
all the character designs are super fun. The world is super fun. Every character in the world has like a pun name. So like
Oh,
all the monsters. So like
like in Dragon Ball, how they have like Vegeta, and then like all of his kind are named after vegetables.
yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
It's that kind of like playfulness that Toriyama brings to it.
That's
Like
amazing.
the little slimes that are popular. They're kind of like the like iconic Dragon Quest monster. And they first of all, peak character design, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Uh
I love a simple little blob.
yeah. And so they always make like you so in Dragon Quest Treasures, you recruit monsters for your crew, and then like they do most of the battling for you, basically. Um, so like I recruited a slime who was named Gutrude, and it'll follow you around and he'll be like, "I'm feeling good." And it's
God
just like,
damn it.
yeah, okay, yeah, I'll live in this world for a while. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
That
sure.
that sounds amazing. I'm gonna have to jump on that. I
I
love that
yeah,
kind of lighthearted fun. Just have
it's
fun, man.
yeah. A lot of Dragon Quest. I think when I would play when I was in my 20s, I wouldn't have got it. Like I played Dragon Quest 8 on the PS2, and it didn't really click with me. And I think it was because I was more of an impatient person then. Like I wanted the instant gratification of like Call of Duty, you know, like
Yeah.
we're running up the hill right now. We're shooting at guys. They're shooting back at us. Like go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Toriyama's stuff and Dragon Quest in general, like you like sit and simmer in this world. Like it's built for you to slow down, basically. Like none of the menus really move very quickly. Um,
Hmm.
for one of the mechanics in treasures is like, so you go out and you treasure hunt, but you can also send out teams to treasure hunt in the meantime to like bring back extra, you know, resources that you need to recruit other monsters or whatever. So it behooves you to gather all these resources and send out these additional teams. And the menu system for doing that is like a solid like 3-second animation of like the team going out on the train, and then like, you know, it'll be like, hey, do you want to do this again? And you'll be like, yes, and then you'll select the next team and it'll be a 3-second animation of the team going out on the train. And it's like, yes, if you were like stats focused and like in like the optimization mindset that like something like Fire Emblem does with like all of its stats and figures, and you want to get the best matchups possible on the battlefield, like if you're in that mentality, like Dragon Quest tries to fight that mentality by being like, hey buddy, slow the fuck down. We're here for a nice anime time, like chill out. We're all friends here. We'll get there when we get there, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that, and it sounds like it has a lot of replayability because I've
Yeah.
noticed, and even though like I've only recently got back into nominally playing video games on a somewhat regular basis, but like I had noticed this like it seems to be this bigger trend where like even these like AAA titles will come out and like I'll read like different reviews of it and people will be like, yeah, it was pretty fun, I finished it in like less than 16 hours or whatever, or like some, oh, it was 30
Yeah.
hours
Yeah.
total, so that was kind of a long game, or I don't know if that's considered a long game, but it's like, and I'm like, man, I remember like when Final Fantasy 6, when it was still called 3, like came
Yeah.
out, and like just immediately like playing it, having it to take so long, thinking I beat it, then the game said, "No, you didn't. The world
Here's a
ended."
whole other section. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I loved it, and I did the same thing with Final Fantasy 2. I forget which one that one is in reality, but and I also remember after beating them the first time, just immediately being like, "Well, I'm definitely playing this again because
Right.
there's so much more." But also,
Dragon
like
Quest.
the immediacy wasn't like it wasn't like, oh, I have to make sure everyone's you know this that
Right.
like every little tiny detail I have to get right. It's like, oh, let's just try it out. Maybe I'll find the secret character this time. Maybe I won't.
Right.
Maybe I'll get the
Right. Yeah. I will say if you're interested in getting into a Dragon Quest game, you do have to get into that mindset of like, I'm going to hang out with my anime pals, because like 11S, I almost bounced off of before it becoming like one of my favorite games. And the reason is it's like 20 hours before you fill up your party, like before you even have like all the characters. And this is what I say to anyone who's like, I want to get into this game, I don't know if I'm going to like it, is that like, wait until you get all your party members before you make a choice. And then decide if you're going to keep playing or not, cuz there's parts of it in its the thing that makes it great, in that you like slow down and hang out with your anime pals and like, just like chill out. Also is kind of a detriment in the beginning, because it's not a hard hook for you to be in there. And the fact that it moves so slowly makes you be like, maybe I'll play something else. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I'll play Resident Evil 4 again. I don't know.
I,
Like,
yeah, I would encourage. So, like recently, our local theater, a local historic landmark that we have in New London is the Guard Arts Theater, which is a
mhm.
wonderful, wonderful Depression era theater. And every year they do a series where they just play all of the Oscar nominations. I might even go tomorrow because they're doing all the short film nominations.
Oh, cool.
And so anyway, my mom had bought a pass to it because like she's tried different stuff, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
see the Banshees of Inisherin. She's like, do you know
Yeah.
anything about that? I'm like, well, I know the people who made it. I'm like, it's probably gonna be really dark. I really want to see it, you know.
Yeah.
And my mother and all of the people around her age who went to see it they did not like it because it is not the kind of movie that uh, uh that that they like. And my mom was like, she really, really didn't like it. And my mom's
Wow.
she's a very empathetic person too. So like,
Sure.
when fake person feels bad, she feels awful, you know.
Oh, okay. All
And then when
right.
it's for the
Yeah,
whole movie, you know,
that tracks with
that's
your mom for sure.
yeah, that's why she didn't like it. But anyway, but she was like, but I'm glad she said though, she's like, but I'm glad I saw it, even though she didn't
Sure.
like it. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm like, I do think it's really important, especially when it's something like for your entertainment. Like, if you're not going to stretch anywhere, like just stretch a little bit, like it's fine. Like, what do you really lose? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
are you gonna lose more time playing a game that you might not like, or are you gonna lose more time like doom scrolling, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Like, it's like I would rather lose time playing a video game and beating it that I don't end up liking than if that takes away more time from like that kind of stuff I'm trying to extract myself from,
Right.
you
Exactly.
know, then
The
I
other
think
thing,
it's a win, you
the
know.
other thing is that like the slower pace, I think goes to its benefit, especially where I am now in the headspace I was in, because it was like, I'm tired of 0 hour. Like, I'm like, I'm like busting butt trying to get a 100-page graphic novel out the door right now. And it's like, I'm in the middle of it. And I can't tell you the feeling of like being like, oh, I've worked for 2 weeks and I'm in the middle and I still have another 2 to 3 weeks to go. And like, I haven't like, you kind of like when you work on a comic, um, I do an issue in a week. So like 20 pages. And, uh, you get to the end and you feel exhausted. Like you just put everything in. And then to work on a graphic novel that is 100 pages and not have like that 20-minute and then, and
Yep.
then like getting to work on the next thing instead of it's just like constant is a whole different vibe. So I was just like tired. And I didn't want a game that was going to be like everything's crazy. I'm yelling at you the whole time. Like I didn't want Sewer Shark. I wanted like uh I just wanted like a chill time, you
Yeah, you
know?
didn't even want like Dark Souls where it's like, okay, I'm
Right,
gonna have to really be dialed in to not die
right.
every 20
It's
seconds.
like it's like Dragon Quest treasures. It's like I form my little monster crew. We go out into an island. We look for treasure. They do most of the fighting. We're just like chilling. I'm reading some puns. You know, some story happens. I enjoy
Yeah.
it. It's a cast of colorful characters. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is just like the vibe and the speed that I want, you know?
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal if you half pay attention for a minute and you can come back, "Oh, yeah, that thing." Like, yeah, the game
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
end because, like, you
yeah.
bent down to pet your
I
dog, like
right, exactly. I clocked 17 hours into it without doing any of the main quest, and I was like, man, this game's really light on story. And then I was like, oh, I've been doing side missions this whole time like an idiot. But the game will just be like, hey, do whatever you want, bud. Just get out there, champ. I'm like, okay,
That's
all
great.
right.
That sounds like I'm gonna make sure to get that on my wish list because that also sounds like, because in trying to make sure that I read more, I think that something that I try to remember and that I'm trying to do is that like, I'm also trying to read some books that are just fun, man. Like just go after some fun books. Like,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
if you're one of those people who were like me, like you used to read a lot of fiction or something and you want it's like pick an easy one first. Like don't go right away for some like, Thomas Pynchon or, whatever the fuck,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
Oh
just
man, Jason. I I
you,
gotta
you,
get
you
off
know?
Reddit. I gotta get off Reddit. I always see people be like, hey, I just started reading comics. What should I read? And they're like, you should read Watchmen. And I'm like, Reddit, shut the fuck up. Like,
Yeah, no.
Watchmen is not a good book to start with.
Well, not anymore. It used to be when we were kids because
Yeah,
it was
maybe when we were kids, but like,
yeah, but like,
man,
well, there's also there's so much there's so much more, there's so much better things that I think I
as
would
far as like a
start
gateway
people
to
off.
like have a good time with some fiction reading, like,
Yeah.
man, I don't know.
Yeah,
Watchmen,
watch
I don't know.
it's like yeah, mine's always Bone is one of mine for someone who's
Yeah.
just like
Do you okay, so do you have a couple of books just like locked in the chamber ready to go when someone's like, I'm thinking about comic books? Bone is one for you?
Bone is one, because that's just legendary. Because it's an all ages. It's not gonna like even if someone wants a darker story, it's dark enough at certain parts, and it's true to
Sure.
it
Yeah.
too. Like there's actual consequence. Like, but Bone is a
Consequences, stakes, like
yep,
a beautiful, well written climax in it. Yeah.
yeah, very funny,
Yeah.
gorgeous, gorgeous art. Jeff, when
Yeah.
I talk about
Absolutely.
brushwork, Jeff Smith. Mwah! My God,
Yeah.
Bone is a fucking
Absolutely.
masterpiece. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I do have a few. I tend to like I tend to try to interrogate it a bit more because it's kind of like someone being like, "Oh, like I've
I
never
just heard
had
about
like
music. Recommend a band to me.
yeah," or like
Yeah.
or "Oh, I just heard this metal band. You're really into metal." It's like, okay, what kind of metal was this band that you were
Sure.
listening to
Sure.
though?
Sure.
Were they more on the like you have to give me a name here because I don't want to be like
Yeah.
recommending you like Victory Over the Sun, who I really like their a single woman death metal band, very very good. Check them out. But like if someone's like, oh, I just heard like I don't know, like the Black Album or whatever for the first time. Like, would you recommend other
Sure.
metal? It's like, okay, well, now that I know your entry point, here's some
Right.
other
Right.
bands that I think you might like, and that
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but like so, but yeah, Bone's one of them. I'm trying to think of
Man, you know what I
uh,
feel? You know what I feel right now? I feel a
mm,
tingle of an idea.
what's that?
I feel like we should build a you want to get into comics like must read pile, a must read from the to read.
Yeah, hey, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, we should
That's
work
not
on
a
that at some point.
yeah, because I'm kind of looking at like yeah, like again, you know what? Fables was one of them just because it was at least for a time there, even though I
Really?
finished
Really?
well,
Man.
because it was a fun story and
Mhm.
it was characters that everybody already had some sort of previous knowledge of, even
That's
if you
true.
don't you know, so it was just like, hey, here's and most of the art for 90% of the series was done by Mark Buckingham, who's a fantastic comic book artist. And so like I also always thought too that like and Bill Willingham too is just like they're both like veterans. So like they know how to
Yeah.
tell good solid stories that will draw you in, So
Yeah.
like just from the ease of use and the familiarity of the characters, like I used to recommend that a lot because like even though the hook is kind of like tropey, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
they're fairy tales, but they're in the real world. Like, okay, fine, but you know, that was one. Bone. I'm trying to think of a few other like I'm like looking at like my bookshelf like right now, but like yeah, you're right. We can
I used to recommend Murder Me Dead
oh
all the
yeah.
time to everybody. I think I probably still would. I don't know if it's widely available. But I think if I was going to update my list, I'd probably recommend like Criminal over Murder Me Dead just because it's a little newer and there's more of it. So if people like really want to dive in, they can.
Yeah. I would
Uh,
I love Stray Bullets is one of my favorite books ever. I love David Lapham so much, but like
yeah,
I don't know if I I just like at least to me like the kind of way that David Lapham can like just make his violence just very disturbing. Like it just seems very
yeah,
real and
for sure.
very unsettling. And that's what makes me love his stories so much because it's just like, oh wow, no, this person is like it's like, oh, this person just saw like, her husband murdered in front of her and like a look on some like the anguish, like all of that. So like that's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
only
he's
reason why
really
if some
great at that stuff.
yeah, so if someone was new to comics, I'd be like, God, I don't know. This might be a little a little heavy for him.
Sure, sure.
But that
Well,
is Murder Me Dead is a bit more lighthearted than Stray Bullets.
like I don't
Like
know. There's a lot of murder in there. Anyway,
yeah, yeah.
we're way up. We've lost the plot, Jason. Jason, if
Nick,
people want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
they get in touch with me. I'm at King of Black Acid on Twitter, also at World's Second Finest, World number two ND Finest. On the Twitter machine, to which I'm still got my streak going. If I miss a day, I
Nice,
miss a
nice.
day. I mean, if I miss a posting about an episode, I might miss it. But if I don't miss it, I will have a song parody in mind. You bet your sweet Bippy, I will have a song parody
Don't
in mind.
don't bet the sweet Bippy.
I'm
I
betting
need
it.
that. I need that.
Nope.
Don't lose it.
Going all in with the Bippy. Going all in.
You can find me at linktree.com/nickphil. That'll have everywhere I am, including YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, what all the places that will have me. Every club that will have me, I am a member.
the anti-Groucho.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they'll have me? Excellent. I'm excited about that.
Bizarro Groucho Marx.
Yeah. I've got some stuff planned for the Twitch stream, but like I said, I've been working on this graphic novel, so I've been kind of slammed. So lately it's only been a little bit of Fire Emblem on the weekends, but hopefully we'll get back to doing some art very, very soon. So I'm excited about that. But some old art has been posting on the YouTube, so check it out there. And the extended to read pile. You might already be on YouTube right now. I don't know. I'm not you. I'm not your boss. I don't know. I'm not looking over your shoulder, making sure that you're filing all your W-2s and whatnot. What is business, Jason? I don't know.
I have no
We
idea.
need to end this podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.